welcome to our industry series. Today we are going to chat with one of the industry experts, great initiator, also an adtech and martech expert with proven abilities in strategic partnerships and brand marketing. Sarath MG, the product head of Audienceprime by Digitalkites. Sarath is expertised in dealing with a lot of reputed brands and agencies, ad networks, programmatic platforms, and many more. And today he will be sharing his valuable insights and experience on the digital advertising ecosystem and programmatic marketing with us. Hi, Sharath, and very warm welcome to you. How are you doing
Hi,
at this
Kathy.
tough time of epic human tragedy?
Right. Trying to cope. This is not something any of us are trained for, right? So I come from another company which was working 100% remote. So over the past 18 months or so, we thought we nailed how to work remotely, right? But that is a completely different situation. This is life endangering, to put it literally, right? So nobody has a playbook how to work from home in a pandemic. So one of the first things we need to realize is it's okay to stumble now, take our time to gather ourselves, and the priority is to keep things running while also not forgetting to have our health, both mental and physical, in the forefront, right? So I think that's what we are looking at. Uh, we had AD and BC from a historical point. We had post 9/11, and I think COVID is going to be looked at it that way a few years down the line, right? Post COVID and pre COVID is going to be a real thing. A lot of industries will not be the same anymore. The way we go out, the way we dine out with our family might also change. The way we travel will definitely change. So nobody knows how it's going to pan out. So for marketers, it's about taking in all information, both correct and incorrect, and digest it, and then keep a close eye on how users are responding and how customers are changing, and they have a huge responsibility to align themselves accordingly. So these are challenging and interesting times. A lot of learnings. Some companies might fail. A lot of companies will come back stronger. Same case with individuals too, I believe. Uh, I think people as a whole are going to come out a lot more stronger, efficient, and wiser out of this when it happens. Yeah.
So, so coming to the main question, so how programmatic advertising works best for any publisher or brand? Like, what is your view on?
Right. So uh, now one thing we have noticed is uh, how programmatic is understood and executed by different people, and different people actually tends to have widely different answers to it, and each of these answers are right for them. So the first thing to look at this is, what does programmatic mean to you? It can mean something completely different to you as a brand or you as an agency as opposed to somebody else. So we can, for this discussion, let's take two extreme cases, right? Now, if you were to generalize the idea of programmatic, that itself has two definitions. The most vague and the definition which covers everything is any sort of media buying where everything is automated and happens on a real time is programmatic. That actually can mean pretty much anything. However, then there is the definition on this end, which a lot of people go by, which is, if it's programmatic, it means open RTB based bidding, which happens between a DSP and an SSP. Now, we have noticed that for a lot of media buying entities out there, for a lot of marketers, they differentiate it at this level, where when they say programmatic, for a lot of people, they mean open RTB bidding, and everything else, which is, if you really look about it, some of those aspects overlap. They don't necessarily call it programmatic, they just call it display advertising, right? So programmatic depends on who you ask this question. That actually becomes a very important factor. So let's look at it both ways. The most commonly accepted definition of programmatic is open RTB based bidding, right? So now that comes into effect in a peculiar circumstance, meaning, for example, let's look at a finance based brand. Let's look at Bajaj Finserv, for example. Now, Bajaj Finserv, as a marketing team and as an overall marketing goal, they will have different facets of execution when it comes to digital. The top of the funnel activities will be completely different from bottom of the funnel. Bottom of the funnel is where when Bajaj Finserv wants users to sign in, give their email address and register to a particular plan or apply to a loan or subscribe to an EMI or whatever that is. That is about action oriented activities, right? Which is about bottom of the funnel. Now they have specific campaigns, a specific set of audience which they want to reach, where they know that these are the audience who are in a position where this particular product is immediately required for them. And then the goal is about how many such people can I reach where this particular product or solution makes sense for them in the short term. How fast can I reach them? How many people can I reach them? And can I reach them at a much efficient price if I go about a traditional display advertising format? So this becomes the idea. And that is where open RTB bidding, the concept comes into picture. So all these three is a direct match with what open RTB does. So by going by that capabilities of a programmatic OpenRTB as a concept, any platform which supports it is already integrated with SSPs, and through that they have access to thousands of publishers. And any second, a typical bidder or a media buying platform with bidding capability is able to process millions of ad impressions and take literal real-time decision to identify if this particular user matches with this particular Bajaj Finserv product and offer, and then make a bid which the bidder estimates to be efficient, cost wise, and then place an ad. So it's about finding that user at a real time and then bidding the appropriate price to get that user's impression and then serving the ad. All of this happening within a fraction of a second. And if this happens in an exponential format, then the campaign is able to reach millions of users across the market on a daily basis. They can do frequency capping and identify users who are responding and not responding, and then being able to do in-flight optimization where responding clusters are segregated and then double down, whereas the non-responsive clusters might be ignored for a later case, right? And then the KPIs of the campaigns are optimized on, are they looking for clicks, are they looking for post-click actions like signups, making sure those numbers are going up. And all of this is completely done by these very efficient media buying platforms with bidding capabilities, and usually connected through OpenRTP protocol. So this is what programmatic is, and a lot of brands usually make use of it. It's about achieving that scale. It's about driving those actions, which needs to happen on a real time. It's about outbidding and outplacing yourself against your competitors. So that almost always works. Then there is this side of the activity where there might be certain cases where you need not double down on that level yet. For example, if you're looking about a new phone model being launched. So when a model is launched, it's about the brand impact and brand awareness. So it's about getting that mind share in people's mind. It's about placing your brand and your product next to uh, publishers or apps or sites which has that level of premiumness associated with it, right? So that is why when a product launches happen, brands usually look to place their ads on premium websites like a Wall Street Journal or a New York Times, which basically helps people to associate the authenticity and the premium value ad which a New York Times has with the brand which is presenting themselves on those properties. So there is that brand awareness scenarios where it's not just about getting millions of impressions, it's also about having that one-to-one relationship with specific publisher properties. It can start that way. So now that can also be one way of programmatic. That is another way of programmatic where it's not about how fast the bidding action is made. It is about which particular site your ad is placed and at what rate and at what predefined timeline you're displaying that ad. Usually, at least in the Indian market, this particular side of activity is not associated with programmatic. but it really depends on how the platform and the publisher are set up and what kind of stack they have. In a lot of times, there are private marketplaces and deal IDs. Both of them are solutions which is designed to make these one-to-one publisher partnerships to be fully automated. And if there are media buying platforms who are facilitating these product solutions, then like I started off with, programmatic can pretty much mean everything. Anything as long as it's a fully automated media buying end to end, it can be called programmatic. But like I said, it really depends on who you're talking to. So probably if you were to take a survey, you might find that 8 out of 10 people will associate programmatic with open RTB bidding on to achieve that scale, to achieve that real-time bidding and in-flight optimization and all that. And maybe the only other two people might say, for me, programmatic also means automated media buying and private marketplaces and DITs. All right. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. You have gone really deep on probability. Thank you on that. So our fourth question would be, what strategies would work best for a brand to reach the right audience in real time images?
Right. So this pretty much, I might have answered a little bit of this when I said how exactly an open RTB based and the scalability and the real-time decision factors which come into play, right? So now let's go back and look at in what context this becomes important. Uh, if it's about a brand building exercise, if it's about introducing a product and getting that mind share in the user's mind over a period of time, the urgency of that is different completely as opposed to say a minimum time duration discount based offering which somebody like a Flipkart or Amazon. So there it's about the urgency, it's about that user who might respond to your discount within that stipulated period of time, right? So depends on what exactly the campaign is about. So if it's about some sort of an offer or some sort of a discount or a concert ticket to Iron Maiden, right? If it's scenarios like this where the product and the solution itself has a longevity or an expiry date, then it's about when can I find the right user. That is one way to look at it. The second way is about the contextual and psychometric behaviors of the audience, which might impact. For example, a pub might do well to advertise its offering on a Friday afternoon because Friday evening is when an employee, a Monday afternoon might not make sense, right? So that is also another scenario, somebody for a food and beverage to target users. The right user at the right time is becoming more important here, right? So the first question is how exactly, when is the best time my brand is relevant to these users to take an action, and that becomes the sweet spot for you. And like I earlier mentioned, after that sweet spot and that is decided, then comes the bidder or a media buying platform who's able to execute your business rules as fast as possible and hit that uh, minimum audience size, which makes statistical sense to you, right? So that is when a media buying platform comes into play, the sophistication of the bidder, the scale that bidder can come, and how cost efficient he is when he gets you those impressions at a price which is not too much for you, which doesn't justify the return you're expecting. If you're selling 15 amount, but if it takes much more than that to get you that conversion, then that doesn't really work either. So it's about that. People usually associate the bidder and its capability to be something magical, which should just work, do everything for you. But these decisions will still rest with the person who's managing the campaign, the creative aspects of the campaign, right? The human touch, so to speak, can still decide a lot of things, which will later becomes business rules or campaign rules, which will be executed. So, when is the best time to reach it? It's completely depending upon those brands and the campaign goal and what exactly do you want the user to do post your campaign. Programmatic is always a great option to hit that scale very fast once you fix those aspects of it, and then it's about executing on that. And we all know Facebook also gets you that reach if you have that social element. uh, if you want to distribute coupons for your friends, Facebook is the best place where the social effect the will can be leveraged very well. And Google also, you can run search ads if that's what you're looking for, where you only want users who are actually looking for your product at that instant. Then Google search is the way to go. So it really depends on how exactly, what, why, and when of your campaign, right? Yeah.
So, which advertising channels do you suggest to the for the brands to make more customers and revenue?
Right. Again, an answer which requires a little bit of journey with the brand itself, right? So you, as a brand, the first question will be, where exactly are you? As in, are you a brand which is just about to launch, or are you a brand where your product or services has already been in the market, and what you're looking for is to find new customers or expand to a new market, right? So both are widely different scenarios to choose what channel to go with. For example, we can tell you a little bit about something we explored with a very small brand. Uh, for privacy purposes, I cannot disclose the name of the brand. Somebody who will very shortly work with Audienceprime's product. And this is the brand is new. The product is something which might be a disruptor, in the sense that this is a beverage, a drink, which is supposed to cure the hangover of consuming alcohol. So the value proposition is clear. It is not a medicinal drink, but it is being positioned something similar to a health drink, right? So it's about, now the brand itself is new. So when we spoke with the brand, when we did that journey with the brand of how exactly does he want to launch the product, the first thing was about the marketer's intention is the people should know the name of the brand and what it stands for. And now, how do we do this? So, a lot of channels, a lot of discussions, a lot of brainstorming. They had done a lot of market research on their own. We could bring some of our insights with our own experience of running other similar campaigns, although it's not exactly the same, because a hangover cure is not, it's kind of a unique product on its own. So what we did was we did a lot of brainstorming, and we basically came down to a framework, which meant that if it's about introducing a new product, which is which can be considered as an energy drink, it's an offline product. It's like an FMCG. It's not a digitally sold product, right? So then it's about hitting your target audience. It can be millennials. It can be 21 to 35, people who go out a lot, people who will have hangovers, so to speak. So that meant, where do we place ourselves? Then a lot of channels came to our mind. People are consuming a lot of entertainment online, right? And that is the place to be, which meant Netflix. But Netflix doesn't advertise. Where else are people are going? People go to YouTube, people go to TikTok, people go to Hotstar, people where people consume entertainment channels. And people are also on Facebook, right? So the channels were selected that way. There were a few thought process behind it. The first was being present on Hotstar and YouTube as a video, 6 second or 15-second video, will introduce your brand to users. Look at this. This is a cool product. The message being conveyed. And then later it was about reinforcing the same message. People will see hundreds of ads on a daily basis. Your product should stand out. The reinforcement again came into the picture, where else can we find the same user, right? It was about reaching the same user on other channels now. Where else can this user talk about this product to his friends? The social aspects coming into play. So there, the brand actually created a Facebook page where it was promoting its brand and the product, and we wanted people to like Facebook page. And Facebook's ad products have a very unique type of campaign and ad formats which they give you, where you can drive people or encourage people to like your Facebook page. So we ran a few campaigns like that. Then we basically ran a few 6 seconds and 15-second video ads on the Facebook channel as well. So the channels were decided based on what level of promotion or what level in the decision making funnel the brand was in the user's mind, right? So once that reinforcement and introduction happens, then it's about action, where action is about the assumption that people already remember your brand. Now you have to tell them where to buy it, right? And they were selling it on Swiggy, they were selling it on certain pubs. So then comes the concept of programmatic channel, where now I want to reach thousands of users. I want to tell them that you already know this brand. It's now available on a pub near you or a supermarket near you, right? So that's how this particular journey happened, where in what order the channels come, when to double down on what channel completely depends on the brand and the situation. So there is no one glove fits all scenarios here, right? Everything is unique, which I think is the challenge and the excitement, where you can journey with the brands and you're figuring it out, hopefully as fast as consumers can react. So, yeah.
So, what are the best ad tech or marketing tools you think that every publisher or advertiser should adopt?
Yeah, so there might be conflict of interest when this question is asked usually, because when you're asking which tools, then you are usually forced to say certain names, and those names are in no way supposed to be an endorsement, right? If I say Google Analytics is better, does it mean Pivot or Mixpanel is not great? We
And
don't know, right?
the
So that's
marketing,
not. So we will
what
keep
would you?
the correct. So we will keep the responses generic when it
Yeah.
comes to what kind of stack uh, will a marketer need to have to basically do an end to end, right? So let's talk about somebody like a Big Bazaar or a Spar or Mo or a retail chain like that. And even though almost more than 90% of his business is happening offline, digital is still important to him. You still need to reach out to people on digital platform, because that's where people are. So what kind of people might come and order groceries online also on your website if you have a delivery mechanism in place. So from a marketing and advertising standpoint, you need to basically track the user's journey end to end, right? The same user, when he is visiting your store and giving his credit card and email ID information to purchase, need to be identified when he visits your app to do the grocery delivery. There are different ways to identify it, right? Somebody like a Reliance e-commerce in the future, or imagine a scenario where a more or a Big Bazaar actually has an e-commerce delivery app. In that case, the first thing is to identify that user wherever, however he's transacting with you. And for that, you need to have an analytic solution in place. You need to have a cross device and cross platform identification of that user. Then the second one is about the intelligence you can build around his transactions. Some people call it business intelligence, some people call it user behavior, journey mapping, and segmentation. However, you want to put it, the bottom line is, what is the user doing when he's interacting with your brand, either offline directly on your store, or while he's visiting your app, or while he is purchasing your items through Flipkart or Amazon. So those information needs to be collated, and then the numbers needs to be crunched, and you need to have patterns and clusters of unique behaviors which you want to capitalize on, right? So any given day you need to know that somebody who's buying diapers has a kid, so you can also cross promote uh, Cerelac or other baby foods like that. So these are the kind of intelligence which you're expected to develop around transactions. So you need to have that capabilities in place as well. An analytics plus a data management platform which will do the slicing and dicing for you. And finally, you have the data. Then you can do two things. First is, this is a customer, you want to re-engage your customers. You want to, like I said, somebody who's consistently buying diapers can also buy baby food, can also buy similar other things, right? So how do you remind him? You can send an SMS or an email marketing telling him that people who have purchased this can also purchase that. You can run a very precise targeted digital ad where you segment people who purchase diapers, and that segment can contain a million customers. And imagine creating a digital campaign for these million customers alone, which is about offering a 20% discount the next time they come to buy diapers, right? So this is like a unique campaign for that section of your customer selling that unique product. Now, how do you sell that? You need an ad tech stack for it, where this segment of customer information need to be migrated from your environment to an ad tech environment. Now, the ad tech, there are a lot of popular options. There is Google themselves, then there are typical DSPs out there. Audienceprime is one platform which is capable of doing that, where it can not only help you collect this information and also basically manage and build the segmentation intelligence and then push this data to an advertising platform, which will then take care of the rules and the actions required to get these ads in front of those people who are buying the diapers, right? So there is that ad tech stack and your data layer, which needs to have that close interaction. Now, the way I've seen this is usually a lot of these brands rely on different companies, different product suites to enable this, which are all cross integrated, right? They might use Google's DoubleClick platform to run the campaigns, and they might use MailChimp or Netcore to run the email campaigns or even Way to Target. They might use Way to SMS to send the SMS campaigns. They might use Google Analytics for collecting the data. In some
Yeah.
cases, they use one single marketing cloud for everything end to end. Some companies like Adobe's Experience Cloud or Oracle Cloud comes into place. Then there are some cases where they use certain product belonging to the same companies, three or four, and then wherever the gaps are, they look for other. So we, in Audience Prime's case, that's how we are evolving. Digitalkites is a suite of products. Audience Prime and Audience Play together can satisfy most of this requirement of a typical stack of a marketer. And we have a couple of clients who are about to go live who are using it end to end to collect the data, to process it, and then activate it. So yeah.
So my next question will be, what are the factors that you consider in targeting a user in a multi-channel market?
Right. So conceptually, the concept is, can I reach the same user in all the
Yeah,
platforms? Right.
yeah,
Now it's the same user. Now who is the user? Uh, Usually that comes from a media plan, right? If you are a brand, if you are a very premium phone like an iPhone, then you will have a different uh, target customer. Whereas if you are a smaller phone, then it can have a completely different. So that becomes it. And the second one is, where can I reach the same user? Which platforms is he on? And that also becomes part of the media plan. For example, if I am targeting, if the brand is an Audi Q7, then what are the online digital properties where I can find people who are my target audience? And it can have varying definitions. I might target certain premium publishers like Business Insider, LinkedIn, but with premium subscription, Wall Street Journal, stuff like that. So that's one way to go where I decide who the user is. And then my multi channel will be how do I reach Wall Street Journal as well as how do I reach LinkedIn, right? I want to reach the same user. So on LinkedIn, I will target premium people who are subscribed to LinkedIn premium option. And here I will have a set of sites, which I will call it a whitelist. And on programmatic, I will say I want to run a programmatic campaign, but I have my own whitelist, right? Thirdly, I can also purchase a third party audience from somebody. Imagine American Express telling us this is a set of users who are platinum card American Express, which I know are high net worth individuals. So if I can plug in that information inside my programmatic bidder, then that also becomes a multi-channel, uh, where can I reach the same American Express platinum card holders on programmatic as well as on SMS. All right. So that's how I will think about it. And this is the same thinking for which Audience Prime is primarily geared for, where we can make all these things happen for you. You tell the user, we will tell you how many of these users are reachable on each of these platforms, based on which you can decide how much budget do I want to allocate to each of these platforms.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving to the next question, what DMP and CDP, where does it all fit in? How
Right.
to decide?
Right. So if you are the head of marketing or anybody on the higher ups of a marketing department, this is a question which will basically come into place very soon, as already happened, because there's been a lot of marketing push from a lot of companies around why you need a CDP and why you need a DMP and why it's going to basically magically give you X% ROI increase. So, but it might not necessarily be so. Uh, for example, if your brand is, say, Nike, where 90% of the sales is happening through offline purchases, the remaining 10% is happening on Amazon, Flipkart, or Myntra, right? So you directly interacting with the user and managing those user level data is quite rare, right? So do you then, as Nike, how many users are directly purchasing from your website? How many users are directly interacting with you? Now your products are getting sold by uh, different individual retail marketers, right? And you're getting the sales information. Are you able to what can you do with that information? And for that, what do you want to do? And do you really need a DMP for that? Right? Because DMPs are usually tens of thousands of dollars worth of fixed investment on a yearly basis. Plus, you need an internal set of resources who are trained on it. And then post integration, a DMP is only as effective. DMP and a CDP are as effective as the volume and scale of data you have, plus how you want to use it. Now, a lot of case times, based on a lot of discussions we have had, what we have found out is it's never the case that I need an end-to-end DMP solution or an end-to-end CDP solution. It's always about I need to do this, and this thing, right? So you don't need to. It's something like, do you want to pay for a buffet having 30 course versus a few dishes which you absolutely require? It's that. And there are solutions which are coming up in place which can be a perfect alternative for a lot of brands for whom a classic DMP might not make sense. For example, a DMP's role ends where the data is exposed to the ad tech stack, right? But if you are more worried about how to optimize your campaigns and what happens after your data is on the ad tech stack, then you are not satisfied with the DMP alone. But imagine a case where there is a product suite which will give you certain aspects of managing your data, collecting your data, as well as being able to plug in an ad tech on top of it and help you optimize the campaigns as well. So, and I think that's how brands should think about it. Do I want a DMP? Is not the question brand should ask. What are my needs? What are the 4 or 5 things I need? And what is a product suite out there who can satisfy these? And don't look for a DMP. Don't worry about what they call themselves. Can I get these individual requirements from a single product suite, right? And to do a sort of a shameless self plugin here, Digitalkites and the suite of products is designed to be flexible to work like that. If you only want 2 of our use cases to be activated, you only pay for that too, right? So that's the philosophy behind it. Do not name yourself or position yourself as CDP or a DMP, because it doesn't make sense solving all of those problems, because that's not how the marketing journey happens for a lot of brands, right? So yeah, so it shouldn't be about, because ultimately if you have a CDP, you need a DMP as well as an ad tech stack. So it's about identifying those use cases and then only activating them through a flexible solutions. Yeah.
So, what are the top-driven strategies which are profitable for every AdTech and MarTech company? Again, please go generic. You don't have to be super specific about it.
I can sense you're already bored, but yes, I got the point. Yes. So now, when it comes to strategies and profitability, it's the question usually is tempting to go deeper, but it really depends on how you measure ROI. Because now this is an exercise which sometimes marketers don't do before they decide to invest in campaign. Uh, there is that very famous saying from the name escapes me. It's a very famous person who's very famously said, uh, I know half of my marketing dollars are getting wasted. The problem is I don't know which half. Everybody has heard, right? And this is actually a real problem. Now, the marketers should decide how to measure their ROIs, and ad tech and marketing platforms can only help them do that. They cannot help the marketers define how you calculate the ROI. That answer should come from them. They can consult and give suggestions, but the original decision, for example, again, let's go with Bajaj Finserv. That point which I mentioned, I'm willing to pay X dollar for a conversion. That X is up to you, and then you decide to optimize, right? And that is your ROI. If it goes above, then maybe you're in negative. So that decision will come from how much is your customer worth to you, right? If you're spending 500 rupees to get a customer, but the product you're selling can only be sold for 200 rupees, then 500 rupees ROI, the acquisition cost of the user is too high for you. It's as simple as that. You work out the economics of your product and service, and then arrive at the cost per acquisition, which should always be less than the revenue you get from the customer. As long as, I mean, that's the magic, and it's the responsibility of marketers to actually come at that value. Yeah.
So moving to the final question of the episode, walled gardens like FB and Google has imposed their own restrictions. How can brands navigate around that?
Yeah. So everybody knows this. The walls are getting higher in the sense that a lot of restrictions which you see today on Google's double click or on Facebook did not exist 2 years ago. And Google and Facebook has their own reasons to do that, because user privacy and a lot of those things have been in the forefront. It's become a bigger issue. We all know that GDPR and all that rules are coming into place as a result of that, and Google is only behaving or reacting to that. But it also meant, the downside of that is, you are basically, the exit barrier for a brand is very, very high. Meaning, if you're using Google Analytics and Google Floodlights and using Google's DV360, and all your marketing is happening on Google, then all your insights about your customers are also residing only on Google. You are completely dependent on Google to do everything. Now, Google, to be fair, tells you that whatever you as a brand can do or want to do, we will enable it for you. There's never really no reason where you need to take the data out, because wherever you take the data out, Google can get you there, right? So that is, some brands are thinking that way, where they are saying they're only happy to completely give their data to walled gardens and keep it there, because walled gardens have that level of scale and the capability to activate all kinds of use cases for them. But there are some brands which have realized that Google and Facebook is not enough for me particularly, because my users are also available outside. Imagine you targeting millennials or Gen Z or whatever they call them. They are not just on Google and Facebook anymore. They are on TikTok as well. Now, how do you take out your brand's insight and then power it on TikTok or on apps and similar to TikTok? There are hundreds of them. Millions of people are using it. So there is that the data can go in, the data cannot be taken out. So that is why they are called walled gardens, and they have their reasons to it. But the navigation is why a lot of intermediaries exist, right? What we call as a CDP or a CRM onboarding solution, something which Audienceprime has, right? So these exist to satisfy those need, where uh, your data should and can be under your control to activate wherever you as a brand choose it, right? So that is the level of flexibility and the freedom which data activation and management platforms give to brands. Yeah, but again,
Okay.
it's a decision to be taken by the brands. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sharad. That was the last question of this episode. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone. I'll
Thank you,
see you
Aditi.
again.
Great talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. See
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.